Namo Buddhaya, the Satasahasrika Prajnaparamita Sutram, the large sutra on perfect wisdom, the chapter 57th, practices. Subhuti. What then, O Lord, is the sameness of the Bodhisattvas, the great beings in which the Bodhisattva should train? The Lord. The various kinds of emptiness are the sameness of the Bodhisattvas, the great beings. That form is empty of form, etc. To enlightenment is empty of enlightenment. That is the sameness of the Bodhisattvas, the great beings, having stood in which the Bodhisattva knows full enlightenment. The growth which is in its own form is the perfectly pure training in skill and means, Subhuti. Does then the Bodhisattva train in the knowledge of all modes when he trains for the extinction of form, etc. to enlightenment, for their dispassion, stopping, and non-production? The Lord. With regard to what Subhuti the Elder has said, what do you think, Subhuti, that the suchness of form, etc. to enlightenment, etc. to the suchness of the Tathagata, by which he is conceived as a Tathagata, does that suchness get extinct, or it is stopped, or cannot be forsaken? Subhuti. No, indeed, O Lord, no, indeed, O well gone. The Lord. When he trains, thus Subhuti, the Bodhisattva trains in suchness, trains in the knowledge of all modes. But suchness doesn't get extinct, is not stopped, cannot be forsaken. When he trains thus, the Bodhisattva trains in suchness, trains in the knowledge of all modes. When he trains thus, the Bodhisattva trains in the 6 perfections, in the 4 applications of mindfulness, and 2, etc., to in the 18 special Buddha Dharmas, and he trains in the knowledge of all modes. When he trains thus, the Bodhisattva reaches the perfection of all training. He cannot be overcome by Mara or the divinities of his host. Quite soon he shall reach the irreversible level. He courses in the range of the Tathagata, which is his own ancestral range. He trains in the dharmas, which make him into a savior. He trains in the great friendliness and the great compassion. He trains for the purification of the Buddha field and the maturing of beings. He trains for the turning of the wheel of Dharma, with its 3 revolutions and 12 aspects. He trains so as to lead all beings to nirvana, to ensure the non-interruption of the lineage of the Tathagatas, to open the door to the undying, to make the unconditioned element visible. But inferior beings cannot train in this sublime training. That Bodhisattva trains so as to extricate all beings from samsara. When he trains thus, he is not reborn in the hells among animals, or in the world of Yama, nor in outlying districts, or among refuse workers or outcasts. Nor is he one-eyed, hunchbacked, or lame, or crippled, deaf, or utterly destitute, or deficient in his faculties. He becomes one who has all his faculties and does not lack any of them. He doesn't become one who takes life, takes what is not given, commits sexual misconduct, who speaks falsely, maliciously, or harshly, or who prattles indistinctly, or who is covetous, harbors ill will in his heart, or has wrong views, and he doesn't earn his livelihood in the wrong fashion. He doesn't seize on what is unreal or immortal. When he trains thus, the Bodhisattva is not reborn among the long-lived gods. And why? Because he is endowed with skill and means. And what is that? In this very perfection of wisdom, that skill and means has been explained, which consists in that he enters on the trances, unlimited the formless attainments, but doesn't get reborn through their influence. When he trains thus, the Bodhisattva incurs the perfect purity of all the dharmas and powers of a Buddha, because he is perfectly pure of the level of the disciples and practical Buddhas, Subhuti. If all dharmas are by nature perfectly pure, of which dharma does then the Bodhisattva incur the perfect purity? The Lord. As you say, Subhuti, all dharmas are by nature perfectly pure. When, in spite of this fact, a Bodhisattva who courses in perfect wisdom doesn't lose heart and remains uncowed, then that is his perfection of wisdom. Because all the foolish common people do not know or see that nature of dharmas, For their sake, the Bodhisattvas course in the six perfections, etc., in the knowledge of all modes. When he thus courses in all dharmas, the Bodhisattva acquires the powers and the state of self-confidence and doesn't fall on the level of the disciples or particular Buddhas. He then goes beyond the throbbing thoughts and doing of all beings. The growth which has for its mark the fact that one becomes one who belongs to the clan of the Buddhas. Just as Subhuti, few are on this great earth the spots where, as in the Jambu river, gold and silver are found, just so Subhuti, few are the beings who train in this perfect wisdom training, much more numerous those who have set out for the level of the disciples or particular Buddhas. The growth, which consists essentially in the science of the aspiration for the attainment of the fruit of Buddhahood. Just as Subhuti, few are the beings who have done deeds conductive to universal kingship, and much more numerous those who have done deeds conductive to their becoming commanders of a fort. Just so few are the beings who have mounted on this path leading to all knowledge, and much more numerous those who have mounted on the path of the disciples and particular Buddhas. Fewer than the Bodhisattvas who have set out for full enlightenment are those who progress to thusness, but more numerous are those who stand in discipleship and particular Buddhahood. Much more numerous than the sons of good family who belong to the Bodhisattva vehicle and who dwelling in this deep perfection of wisdom are without any doubt bound to enter on the reversible stage are those who do not manage to enter on it. Therefore, then, Subhuti, a Bodhisattva who wants to reach the reversible stage, who wants to be numbered among those who belong to the stage, should train in this deep perfection of wisdom. The growth which in its own being is the non-production is thought of states hostile to the perfections. Moreover, Subhuti, when the Bodhisattva courses in perfect wisdom, no thoughts associated with meanness arise in his mind, and thoughts associated with immorality, anger, sloth, distraction, or stupidity, with greed, hatred, illusion, or with rigidity. The growth which Haripata has felt to indicate the name of the 13th Vivriddhyartha, the Miss of P, has only iti trayudashi. With form, etc. to enlightenment. Why? For when the Bodhisattva courses in the deep perfection of wisdom, he doesn't apprehend any Dharma, and in consequence, he doesn't raise his thought to any Dharma. It is thus that the Bodhisattva, the great being who trains in this deep perfection of wisdom, has taken hold of all the six perfections, has produced them, has conformed to them. And why? Because in this deep perfection of wisdom, all the perfections are contained. The growth which has for its mark the cognition which compresses all perfections. Just as the view of individuality includes the 62 false views, just so all the perfections are included in this deep perfection of wisdom. When a man has died, the stopping of his life faculty implies the stopping of all his faculties. Just so, when the Bodhisattva courses in this deep perfection of wisdom, all the other perfections are included. Therefore, then, Subhuti, the Bodhisattva who wants to go to the beyond of all the perfections, should train in this deep perfection of wisdom. The growth which implies the acquisition of all the accomplishments. Again, when he trains in this deep perfection of wisdom, the Bodhisattva trains in that which is the highest possible degree of the perfection of any being. What do you think, Subhuti, if you consider all the beings in the great Richely cosmos, would they be many? Would they be many? Subhuti, many, O Lord, many are well gone. There are many beings even in Jambudvipa alone, and how many more in the great Richely cosmos? The Lord, if all beings in the great Richely cosmos would sooner or later, after acquiring a human body, know full enlightenment in one single Bodhisattva during his entire life, richly furnish them all with robes, alms, bows, lodgings, medicinal appliances for use in sickness. What do you think, Subhuti? Does this Bodhisattva, on the strength of that, beget much merit? Subhuti, he does, O Lord. The Lord, much greater merit will that son or daughter of good family beget who will take up this deep perfection of wisdom buried in my preach and study it, will wisely attend to it, and who will progress to its thusness. And why? So greatly Profitable is the perfection of wisdom of the Bodhisattvas, the great beings, as productive for the supreme enlightenment. A Bodhisattva should therefore train in just this perfection of wisdom if he wants to arrive at the supreme position among all beings, to become a savior of all those who are helpless, a refuge and final relief to those who so far have found no refuge or final relief, an eye to the blind, a lamp to those plunged into the darkness of ignorance. If he wants to reach Buddhahood, to arrive at the domain of the Buddhas, to sport where the Buddhas sport, to row where Buddha's lions roar, to beat the drum and to blow the conch shell of a Buddha, and to explain the Dharma as only a Buddha can do, and why, when the Bodhisattva transcends perfect wisdom, he acquires all the accomplishments which he should acquire. Subhuti, should he also acquire the accomplishments of a disciple or Pratyeka Buddha? The Lord, yes, he should, but he should not abide therein or rely thereon. After having viewed them with his cognition and vision, he should pass above them and enter on a Bodhisattva's special way of salvation. When he trains thus, the Bodhisattva comes nearer to the knowledge of all modes and will know the supreme enlightenment. He reaches a cognition where he comes worthy of the nations of the world with its gods, men, and asuras. He surpasses others who are worthy of the nations, if they are disciples and Pratyeka Buddhas, and he comes near to the knowledge of all modes. He doesn't part from the perfection of wisdom, but he courses in it, is not without it. When he courses thus in this deep perfection of wisdom, he will never again lose interest in the knowledge of all modes. He keeps away from the level of the disciple or Pratyeka Buddha and comes near to the supreme enlightenment. The growth in its own being is the nearness to full enlightenment. But when he thinks to himself, this is the perfection of wisdom, here is the perfection of wisdom. By this perfection of wisdom shall I bring about the knowledge of all modes. When he cognizes thus, then he doesn't course in the perfection of wisdom. On the contrary, he doesn't cognize this perfection of wisdom, that this is the perfection of wisdom, here is the perfection of wisdom, that also he doesn't cognize or see, or likewise that this one has the perfection of wisdom, by that is the perfection of wisdom, or him who going forth by the perfection of wisdom comes to know full enlightenment. But if it occurs to him, not is this the perfection of wisdom, no is the perfection of wisdom here, no does through this perfection of wisdom many Dharma go full, because fixed and established in the Dharma elements and suchness and the reality limit. When he courses that, then the Bodhisattva courses in perfection of wisdom. This is the end of 57th chapter on the Large Sutra on Perfect Wisdom, the Satasahasrika Prajnaparamita Sutram.